Welcome to the Military Law News Network. I'm Michael Waddington. I'm a court-martial defense attorney based out of Miami, Florida, and I'm joined by Timothy Bilecki from Honolulu, Hawaii. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. It's great to be on the show again.
In today's episode, I want to highlight something that came out in the news over the past 48 hours. Senator Martha McSally, she is a senator from Arizona. She's a Republican, and she's now taking the lead on fighting sexual assault in the military. Some of the old warriors for military law change are now running for president. Some of them were voted out of office. So she's now the person taking the lead. And Tim, there's three things that she's proposing to change the military justice system. And I'm going to highlight three of them, and we'll break them down and discuss them and how that could impact service members in the future. Number one, she wants to criminalize sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is an unwanted sexual advance. So if you tell someone, oh, I really like your hairdo today, or I like those earrings, or it depends on how they take it, that could potentially be a federal felony crime if she has her way. Number two, she wants to, quote, hold commanders responsible and deny them promotions if they don't crack down harder on sexual harassment and sex crimes, which is unlawful command influence. The third thing is she wants to put more money, even more money than the millions and millions they've been pouring into the prosecution teams. She wants to create these crack prosecution teams, these uber prosecution teams that are like, you know, Jedi warriors of prosecuting sex crimes. So those are the three things that she wants to do to change the law over the next 4 years. So let's start with the top. Criminalizing sexual harassment. Sounds like a good idea or not? What do you think, Tim?
I think it's extraordinarily problematic, Mike. I mean, it's criminalizing what is fairly a low-level offense, essentially. So if you go into the workspace, like the example you gave, say, hey, those earrings look great on you today, or whatever terms you're going to use, that's a problem. That's a problem. That can be a problem that can erode the culture of an office. That's an employment issue. If that's happening and there's an issue where there's a toxic work environment or there's sexual harassment in the environment, as a small business owner, it's not something I would not tolerate that, and I would terminate that employee if that was ever going on in my organization. That's an employment issue. That's a civil issue. But to make that now a felony level criminal issue is something completely different. I mean, it takes it to a whole nother level where it's almost getting to the absurd, because how do you defend against that per se? Okay, and you can absolutely weaponize that, and you can instill a culture of fear in an organization where you're scared to say anything. You're scared to do anything within an organization for fear of criminal charges. Again, right now, sexual harassment in the workplace is not tolerated, but it's not criminal. It's a workplace issue. It's a civil issue. And in the military, by the way, you can lose your career over that. It's just going to happen administratively, and that would be appropriate. But to criminalize this and put people in jail for this is just extraordinary, Mike.
Tim, well, what she wants to do, based on my understanding, is that she wants to make sexual harassment a separate crime versus violation of a regulation, violation of a direct order, things of that nature. But the problem that I foresee here is this could spill over into many areas. And I've been hearing allegations coming out from men, for example, that are offended by, quote, sexual talk. Take the infantry, for example, in the United States Army. Good guys. I like hanging out with these guys, but they tend to curse a lot. They tend to be kind of vulgar. You take mechanics in the Air Force. They tend to be kind of a little bit more rough around the edges, and they like to tell different jokes. Not intending to harass or degrade anyone, but if you hear one of these jokes, even if you and three other men standing around the flight line waiting for to refuel the jet, you could get hit for telling some stupid joke. You could get hit with a felony charge for sexual harassment if someone took it the wrong way. It just can open Pandora's box.
Yeah, and that's really the problem, because we typically think of this as the way we kind of started off the show, saying, hey, talking about the way someone's dressed or their appearance. But when you put this over into the military, in a military context, in a warfighter context, people are going to make rough and tumble jokes. People are going to, who are deployed, you have recon Marines, you have Marines, you have 11 Bravos, you have people in Motor T. They're going to be making jokes. These are oftentimes a lot of young individuals. And whether that's appropriate or not is a whole nother story. That's a culture issue. But to be able to maybe tell a joke or joke around with some of your buddies who you're deployed with or who you're in the motor pool with, and now you're facing a criminal charge where not only could you lose your career, but you can go to prison over, any type of sexual harassment, they can be properly dealt with what we currently have in place. There's absolutely no need to criminalize it because, as you stated, Mike, you open up Pandora's box here, and then it just becomes subject to absolute abuse. Because what you're going to see is someone that's maybe has another charge. This is always going to be a tack-on charge. Oh, by the way, 4 years ago, while you were in the motor pool, when you were an E2, now you're an E6 or an E5, you made a sexual joke that someone was offended by. Here's your criminal charge. What the hell is that? I mean, it sounds absurd, but that could happen.
I did a case in San Diego about 6 months ago where everybody it was in the Navy, but it was Master at Arms, and they were playing different music, different rap music. And the lyrics were vulgar, and everything was cool. Everybody was dancing, and until someone got hit with a letter of concern, and they got mad. So they brought my client in, who was an E6, and said, "Oh, he sexually harassed me. He played this song." And I cross-examined the woman, and she goes, "Yeah, that song's on my playlist, and I listen to it, and I like it, but it was inappropriate for the workplace. It was offensive because it was sexual in nature." The guy got retained, but that's when you wonder, like, what could be wrong with criminalizing sexual harassment? Imagine if that guy was now facing felony charges for playing a song that people listen to on their playlist on a daily basis in the workplace. I'm not saying that's appropriate, but it's not criminal.
Now he can go to prison for this and be a registered, maybe a registered sex offender. I don't know. He could be. It depends on how they would write the law. But he could go to prison and have a felony conviction and have his life totally turned around and his life just destroyed because he was playing a song that everyone else has on their playlist, but one person was offended by it. I mean, that's just extraordinary if that actually happens, Mike. I don't think it's ever going to. I think this is all talk. I think this is a way to get on the news, to get more media attention, to puff yourself. I think it's all talk.
Tim, that's what we thought a few years ago when they talked about adding more and more charges such as abusive sexual contact, which is a really easy to prove charge. There was contact, it was offensive, and it was of a sexual nature. So you touch someone's hair, you just committed a sex crime. That's an actual charge in the UCMJ. And there are people going under sex offender registration for touching someone's hair. So now I want to move on to the second topic and get your thoughts on it. This idea of holding commanders responsible and denying them promotions if they have any sort of sexual harassment or sex crimes in the unit and don't treat them appropriately. That sounds a lot to me like unlawful command influence, and it sounds like it's going to be a real problem if that gets enacted. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds extraordinarily problematic, Mike. I mean, as commanders, you are screened and selected for command. You have the ability to make independent decisions, to make good decisions. You can bring troops to war. You can make very high-level decisions. But what we're saying now is you can make all of those decisions with regard to the warfighter. But if there's an allegation of sexual assault or sexual perhaps harassment now in your unit, and you don't fully punish that individual, if you don't take that to a court martial, then you're not going to get promoted. It's absurd. And so what we're doing is we're hamstringing and tying the hands of the commanders who I believe that most commanders want to do the right thing. I've talked with a lot of commanders, a lot of senior leaders and general officers, and I believe at their heart they want to do the right thing, but they also want to get promoted as well. And they're scared of what the repercussions are. They're scared of the 138 complaints. They're scared of Congress. And so what we have now is guidance from above saying that you're not going to get promoted in your career if you are independent, essentially, if you don't take these certain cases and prosecute them to the full extent of the law. And I think that's just extraordinarily problematic because we should have a system where commanders have the ability to be independent and make independent decisions, because a lot of nonsense comes forward and the commander should be able to look at the file, review the investigation and say, I don't believe there's enough to go forward here. I'm going to let this Marine or this soldier move on with their life.
You have the idea of the person not getting promoted. That's always in the back of someone's mind. Another thing is you could lose your command. I've seen people lose their commands due to lack of confidence and ability to lead. So if they hear there is a sex assault allegation, turns out it's completely bogus, even harassment, and then the commander does not prosecute that person or hammer that person or even sides with that person, gives them a character statement, or fights to keep them in the unit, then that commander can be fired. You're talking 06s, 05s getting fired for lack of confidence in their ability to lead, which again is unlawful command influence. So that's happening now, and if they have their way, if Congress has their way and the Senate has their way, I think it's going to be more problematic to the point where our entire system's based on unlawful command influence, even more so than it is now.
Yeah, and on each OER in the Army at least, or on NCOERs, there's a bullet point which is required whether you are meeting the SHARP initiative, whether you support SHARP. And I'm concerned that if these bullets are not on NCOs or OERs, that's an automatic referral under the new rules. If your OER or NCOER does not state that you support SHARP, it is an automatic refer to OER, and it's going to tank, or automatic refer to NCOER, and it's going to tank your potential career. And so commanders are going to be certainly thinking about that, whether they are, quote, promoting the SHARP initiative or supporting SHARP, and when they're making their decisions on sending cases forward to trial or not, especially when from higher is pushing down, you have to prosecute these to the fullest extent of the law, or you're not supporting the SHARP initiative. That's going to be a real problem, Mike. And again, as I keep saying over and over, who's going to get screwed by this? The people that are going to get screwed are the innocent people are getting falsely accused, because they're going to have to win their cases at trial when there's may not even be enough evidence to take it to a trial. And then a lot of things can go wrong in the process.
Well, that's exactly right, Tim. If you don't have a good lawyer, if you don't have an excellent lawyer, a lot of things can go wrong really fast, which leads us to the next topic that this senator wants to put into play. They want to even up the game more so in the skill level and the resources for military sex assault prosecutors. I mean, over the past 5 years, they've had tens of millions of dollars injected into their budgets. They're bringing in all these highly qualified experts. They have an unlimited budget to hire experts and resources. And now that Senator McSally wants to create these super prosecution teams that specialize in sexual assault. And by the way, she didn't mention that you're going to get a super highly specialized free military lawyer. They're probably going to take the resources from the TDS, ADC, the DSO, and give them over to these Uber prosecution teams, even further tilting the playing field.
Yeah, and that's my real problem with this, Mike. I have no problem whatsoever about getting better trained and better prosecutors. I always say I'd much rather go up against a very experienced prosecutor in a trial. The trials are smoother. We don't litigate BS issues. We oftentimes get to the heart of the issue, and I'd much rather go up against a very experienced prosecutor than go over against someone who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. I can win against both, but one, it's just so frustrating when you have these baby prosecutors who are just become obstructionists because they don't know what the hell they're doing. So I'm all in favor of getting good prosecutors on these cases, as long as you give them the independence to kill cases that don't merit prosecution. But on the other side of that, you have to have that level of defense. So if you're going to pour all these millions of dollars into the prosecution side, you must pour them into the defense side, because what you have now is what you're going to have extraordinarily lopsided. So you're going to have prosecutors who are 04s, 05s, 06s, who have unlimited resources, unlimited budgets, extraordinary training, the best of the military. Then you go over to the TDS office or the ADC office or the DSO office, and you go see your military counsel, and he's got three courts under his belt. 2 of those were guilty pleas. The other one was a full conviction. And there's no training. There's no money. You can't get experts. You don't have your own independent investigator. You've got to beg the command for money to do anything. And so all the money's being poured into the prosecution side. What that's going to do is you're going to have wrongful convictions. People are going to get railroaded. And that's completely inappropriate. So if we're going to spend this money, spend it, but put the money on the defense side, put it on the prosecution side, and let's try to even things out a little bit.
Tim, please, come on. Don't hold your breath. You honestly think that they're going to put another, $50 million into the prosecution to build these super prosecution teams, and they're going to give the defense lawyers anything? I mean, look at it now. I go to a lot of these military offices, particularly in the Air Force. They have like 15 lawyers working for the prosecution from the SJ on down, and paralegals left and right. The victim advocates have this, SVCs have their own paralegals now. And I go to the ADC office, and it's usually a very well-intentioned, very smart young attorney that's handling all of the legal actions for that entire base. Usually there's one. I mean, it's pretty rare to go to ADC office where you have more than one lawyer. And they might even be a hardworking, talented person, but they're basically dwarfed. So imagine now that young captain is facing an 06 and an 05 prosecutor. And rank plays a role in a court martial. And they pull rank on these young ADCs and TDS lawyers all the time. And they push them around. And then when a civilian comes in, they don't know what to do.
Yeah, when I say I hope they pour money into it, that's wishful thinking, right? That's like saying I hope I win the lottery, so I'm going to play the Powerball. It's fun to talk about, but it's never gonna happen, because you're absolutely right. You go to any base. If I go to Hickam, if I go over to Schofield, if I go over to K-Bay, or anywhere I travel to, if it's Okinawa, if it's Kadena, wherever it is, you're absolutely right. I'll go to the prosecutor's office, to the SJA's office, and there's 06s, 05s, there's paralegals, there's an army of attorneys, there's CID, there's OSI, there's HQEs, highly qualified experts, there's unlimited resources, unlimited funding to go prosecute these cases. Then you walk over to the ADC's office, and there's one.